the south of France, a place of breathtaking beauty. Rolling vineyards bake under the warm sun. Ancient villages perch on hilltops, overlooking the azure waters of the Mediterranean. Tourists flock to this idyllic region, seeking solace and escape. They come to savor the good life, the delectable food, the fine wines, the intoxicating scent of lavender fields in bloom. But beneath this veneer of tranquility, a darkness sometimes lurks. A darkness that whispers of secrets hidden beneath the surface. The story of Evelyn Lund is one such whisper, echoing through the sun-drenched hills and valleys. It is a story of love and betrayal, of trust and deceit, of life and death played out against the stunning backdrop of southern France. The beauty of the region can be deceiving. It can lull you into a false sense of security, making it easy to forget that evil can flourish anywhere. Evelyn Lund, a woman in her late 50s, had come to this idyllic place seeking peace and solace after the death of her husband. She had found a charming farmhouse near the village of Raysac, nestled among the vineyards and sunflower fields. It seemed like the perfect place to start a new chapter in her life. Little did she know that she was stepping into a nightmare. Evelyn's life was filled with simple joys. She found solace in nature, spending hours tending to her garden at her home in England. Animals held a special place in her heart. She had a particular fondness for dogs. Her kindness extended to all creatures, great and small. She had a nurturing spirit, always putting the needs of others before her own. Evelyn was the type of person who would go out of her way to help a stranger, offering a warm smile and a listening ear. The death of her husband had left a gaping hole in her life. They had shared a deep bond built on years of love, laughter, and companionship. His absence was a constant ache in her heart. Evelyn tried to stay strong for her children and grandchildren, but the pain of his loss was always there, a shadow lurking in the background. She hoped that a fresh start in France would help her heal, to find a sense of peace and purpose again. It was in this vulnerable state that she met Robert Lund. He was a charming man, with a quick wit and an easy smile. He seemed to understand her grief, offering words of comfort and support. Evelyn, starved for connection and longing for companionship, found herself drawn to him. He filled a void in her life, offering the promise of love and happiness after a period of profound loss. However, beneath Robert's charming exterior lay a darkness that Evelyn was oblivious to, a darkness that would soon engulf her completely. Evelyn's love for animals was a testament to her kind and compassionate nature. She believed in their unconditional love and found solace in their presence. Her dogs were her constant companions, offering her comfort and joy. They were her family, her furry confidants who asked for nothing more than her love in return. This deep connection with animals spoke volumes about Evelyn's character. She was a gentle soul, someone who appreciated the simple things in life, and found solace in the company of those she loved, both human and animal. Robert Lund was a man of contradictions. He could be charming and charismatic one moment, then cold and distant the next. He had a troubled past, littered with failed relationships and financial instability. Whispers followed him like shadows, hinting at a darker side he kept carefully hidden. There were stories of debts, of broken promises, of a temper that flared quickly and dangerously. Robert had left a trail of broken hearts in his wake. His first wife had divorced him, citing his volatile temper and controlling behavior. Other relationships had ended similarly, with women accusing him of being manipulative and emotionally abusive. He had a knack for worming his way into women's lives, showering them with attention and affection, only to reveal his true colors once he had them firmly in his grasp. His financial history was equally troubled. He had a string of failed business ventures and was rumored to be deeply in debt. He was a master manipulator, always able to talk his way out of trouble, at least for a while. He had a talent for spinning elaborate tales, weaving stories of bad luck and betrayal, always casting himself as the victim. He was skilled at garnering sympathy, making people want to believe him, to help him. But beneath the charm and charisma, there was a coldness in his eyes. a hardness that hinted at a dangerous capability. Those who crossed him often lived to regret it. He was not a man to be trifled with, and he had a way of making sure that those around him understood that. Robert was a predator, and Evelyn, still reeling from the loss of her husband, was about to become his prey. He saw in her an opportunity, a chance to start over, to escape his past and secure his future, even if it meant destroying another life in the process. Isolation and control, the walls close in. Evelyn, still grieving and vulnerable, was quickly swept off her feet by Robert. He showered her with attention, compliments, and gifts. He listened patiently to her stories, offering words of comfort and understanding. He painted a picture of a shared future, one filled with love, laughter, and companionship. Evelyn, starved for affection and longing for a companion, allowed herself to believe in the fairy tale he was creating. He convinced her to sell her home in England and move to France permanently. He isolated her from her friends and family back home, urging her to sever ties and start anew with him. He painted a picture of a simpler life, free from the constraints of their past. He convinced her to invest her savings in a series of business ventures he claimed would make them both wealthy. He was slowly gaining control of her finances, isolating her from her support system, and tightening his grip on her life. Evelyn, blinded by her infatuation, didn't see the warning signs. Or perhaps she chose to ignore them, desperate to believe in the fantasy Robert had created. She was like a bird trapped in a gilded cage, slowly being stripped of her freedom. Her once vibrant personality began to fade, replaced by a quiet submissiveness that was chilling to those who knew her well. Her friends and family back home noticed the change in her, the spark in her eyes dimming with each passing day. Her phone calls became less frequent, her letters less cheerful. She made excuses for Robert's behavior, explaining away his controlling nature and possessiveness as signs of his love and devotion. She was caught in a web of manipulation, slowly being suffocated by his insidious control. The once independent woman who had found solace in her garden and joy in her animals was now a shadow of her former self, trapped in a nightmare of her own making. Her silence was the most terrifying sign of all, the unheard whispers of a woman slowly disappearing before their very eyes. Whispers in the wind, the disappearance. Evelyn's family grew increasingly worried. Weeks turned into months with no word from her. Their calls went unanswered. Their letters returned unopened. They knew in their hearts that something was terribly wrong. The idyllic image of her new life in France began to crumble, replaced by a growing sense of dread. Evelyn, who always kept in close contact, wouldn't just disappear without a trace. Her silence spoke volumes, and it whispered of something sinister. They contacted the local authorities in France, their worst fears confirmed when Evelyn was reported missing. The idyllic farmhouse, once a symbol of hope and new beginnings, now stood as a silent testament to her disappearance. The beautiful French countryside, which had promised peace and tranquility, now seemed to hold its breath, hiding a dark secret beneath its picturesque facade. The search for Evelyn began, a desperate race against time to uncover the truth behind her vanishing act. The investigation quickly focused on Robert Lund, his past casting a long shadow over the case. His history of financial troubles, his string of broken relationships, and his volatile temper painted a picture of a man capable of desperate acts. The charming facade he had so carefully constructed began to crumble, revealing the darkness that lay beneath. His explanations for Evelyn's disappearance were inconsistent, riddled with holes and contradictions. He claimed she had left him, that she had grown tired of their life together and run off with another man, but her family knew in their hearts that this wasn't true. Evelyn would never abandon her loved ones, especially not her children and grandchildren. As the investigation deepened, the whispers grew louder, swirling around Robert Lund with increasing intensity. The idyllic setting of the French countryside could no longer conceal the truth. A dark secret lurked beneath the surface, and the whispers in the wind hinted at a tragedy far greater than anyone could have imagined.